Ethel Lillie Brown was born in 1892 and was the daughter of a gamekeeper in Lincolnshire who was working on the estate of Sir Henry Hawley, an inherited estate called Tumby or Tumby Lawns from Sir Joseph Paxton. The Browns resided in a small lodge house on the grounds with their 4 children, Ethel and her 3 brothers. Ethel left school at the age of 14, which was normal back then, and she found work as a dressmaker. The years went by, and Ethel, unknown to her parents, had started having a relationship with a man, and she became pregnant at the age of 23. Her daughter, Oriel, was born in 1915. The circumstances surrounding Oriel's birth were shrouded in secrecy, as Ethel chose to keep the identity of her daughter's father a closely guarded secret. This decision was probably because of the social pressures of the time and personal reasons that remained unspoken. To help her through this time, Ethel turned to her own parents for support. They stepped in to help raise the girl by providing a stable environment that was somewhat conventional. So as far as the outside world was concerned, Oriel would be presented as Ethel's sister rather than her daughter. Growing up under the guise of being Ethel's sister seemed to form a unique bond between Oriel and her mother. Ethel's parents likely played a significant role in shaping Oriel's life, instilling their values and beliefs. They also shielded her and Ethel from the social stigma of being born to a single parent, which was frowned upon at the time. A few years later, Ethel met and married Arthur Major, who had been discharged from service due to injuries from the First World War. They tied the knot on June 1st, 1918. After living with her parents for a few years, Ethel gave birth to a son, Lawrence, in 1920. In 1929, Ethel, Arthur, and their son moved into a council house in the nearby village of Kirkby-on-Bane in East Lincolnshire, and Arthur had found work as a truck driver at the local gravel pit. Life looked reasonably good on the outside, but behind closed doors, secrets lurked. In the early 1930s, Arthur stumbled across news that would change the course of his relationship with his wife. He learnt that Ethel was actually the mother of Oriel. Unable to contain his frustration and confusion, he confronted her, demanding to know the identity of the child's father. Ethel, however, stood her ground. She was reluctant to divulge any details, perhaps fearing the implications or the emotional fallout that such a revelation could unleash. The tension between the two grew palpable. Conversations that once flowed easily became strained and filled with silent accusations. Arthur's trust in Ethel eroded as doubt began to seep into every interaction. Ethel felt cornered, while Arthur grappled with his feelings of betrayal and anger. As the months passed, it became increasingly clear that their relationship was heading down a troubled path, one that neither of them had anticipated. Ethel and Arthur had more or less grown so far apart they were virtually living separate lives. By all accounts, Arthur wasn't the most likeable of men. He had a quick temper, although many thought this change in his personality might have stemmed from his wartime experience, where he suffered serious injuries and could possibly be suffering from battle fatigue. It didn't help that he was a heavy drinker, which was usually a form of self-medicating. Ethel wasn't well liked either. She had a reputation for being argumentative and difficult, making her generally disliked in the community. An underlying bitter and petty battle of resentment and disdain for each other had reached another level. Arthur's temper grew worse when in the spring of 1934 Ethel accused him of cheating with a neighbour and showed supposed love letters. Arthur, furious at the accusation, found out that a letter had been sent to the neighbour from a lawyer. supposedly at his request, warning Rose Kettleborough to stay away from him. It came out that Ethel had indeed instructed the lawyer to do this, claiming Arthur had asked her to, but he didn't want to be involved. As for the love letters, it's believed that she likely wrote them herself after the handwriting in the letters was compared to hers. Arthur decided to fight back by letting all the local shops and trades know he was no longer responsible for Ethel's debts. Not one to back down, Ethel forged a letter to the local council and tried to get Arthur's name removed from their tenancy so the place could be all hers. She even tried to get him fired by telling his bosses he regularly drove his truck while under the influence of alcohol. It would seem Ethel wasn't afraid to fake letters, if it worked in her favour. She wasn't afraid of Albert, far from it. This marriage had turned into a deep resentment for each other, and by May 1934 Ethel took their home front war to a new level. Ethel had always known that her father kept some poisons for his work as a gamekeeper. These poisons were stored locked away. There were 2 keys, and according to Ethel's father, one of the keys had been missing for a long time. Ethel had been spending a lot of time at her parents' home, and the missing key actually sat in a handbag Ethel had been using, until the time it was searched and discovered by the police. Meanwhile, on 23rd of May, Arthur sat down with some workmates to eat his snap, lunch. Ethel had prepared his usual corned beef sandwiches, but this time with a twist. He took a bite. Something tasted odd. He tried another bite. This time he threw the sandwich down, claiming to his workmates they tasted bad and maybe his wife was trying to get rid of him, which I'm guessing his work colleagues thought that was a joke. It was said that the discarded sandwich was feasted upon by some birds who died almost straight away. Ethel waited for news of her poor departed husband, as the corned beef sarnie was laced with strychnine, but it would be a day later that Arthur became sick. It wouldn't have been a quick death. Arthur would have experienced extreme pain, muscle spasms and convulsions before dying. Strychnine poisoning isn't a pretty way to go. After the doctor visited, he put Arthur's death down to epilepsy, especially after hearing about the convulsions and fits. The symptoms did sound similar. Ethel hastily tried to make the funeral arrangements that were set to go ahead on the 26th, but was held back as the police became suspicious, especially when a letter arrived at the station. The letter read, "Sir, have you ever heard of a wife poisoning her husband? Look further into the death, by heart failure, of Mr. Major of Kirkby-on-Bane. Why did he complain of his food tasting nasty and throw it to a neighbour's dog, which has since died? Ask the undertaker if he looked natural after death. Why did he stiffen so quickly? Why was he so jerky when dying? I myself have heard her threaten to poison him years ago. In the name of the law, I beg you to analyse the contents of his stomach. Signed, Fair Play." With this, an autopsy was carried out by the famous pathologist Dr. Roche Lynch, which revealed that both Arthur and the dog had been poisoned with strychnine. At the same time Arthur died, it turned out that Ethel, true to form, had a dislike for the neighbour and his dog, so had decided to feed the scraps of beef left over to the poor animal, who promptly died. All of these coincidences were too difficult to ignore, and Ethel would help herself towards the gallows. After taking Ethel in for questioning, first at Horncastle, then at Louth Station, a very suspicious Inspector Young didn't have to say anything before Ethel exclaimed that she hadn't prepared her husband's lunch that day, as she had a dislike of corned beef and really brought it. She added that she had no idea how strychnine could possibly have killed her husband. A bemused inspector asked her why she would even think her husband had been poisoned, when nobody had even mentioned poison, especially strychnine, to which she replied, "Oh, I'm sorry, I seem to have made a mistake." After this statement, it was pretty obvious Ethel was the culprit. The criminal mastermind watched as the police searched her handbag. Lo and behold, they found a key. The key would turn out to be the very one that was missing from the father's home, where he kept the poisons he used for his work. Ethel was charged with wilful murder by poison, and it would be concluded that as the key had been missing for a long time, she must have had thoughts of killing him for some time. She was tried at Lincoln Assizes between the 28th of October and the 2nd of November 1934, before Mr. Justice Charles. Mr. Norman Burkitt, K.C., was Ethel's defence. The jury heard the police story regarding the strychnine and the doctor's statement that Ethel suspected that Arthur was having an affair, and had told him, "Now you understand why I have been ill. A man like that is not fit to live. I will do him in." The doctor didn't take her seriously. The neighbour was in the witness box and denied the love letters were sent from her. She was shown the letters and denied the handwriting was hers. Ethel's daughter claimed she had seen Arthur and the neighbour flirting. The solicitor, Henry Tweed, confirmed he had written a letter on behalf of Mrs. Major, and Walter Holmes had witnessed Mr. Major's distressed, excited behaviour when he was informed of this, claiming he had instructed no such thing. The Home Office analyst, Dr. Lynch, gave his findings that both Mr. Major and the dog had been poisoned by strychnine shortly before death. Ethel's father, Tom Brown, had to confirm that the key was found in Ethel's bag, was the missing key that had been missing for a long time, and found in her bag. The key allowed access to the poison. Another neighbour, Elsie Roberts, confirmed she had seen Ethel put some meat out into her neighbour's garden, where the dog roamed, and ate the meat. She also claimed she saw Ethel throw her head back and laugh. Ethel would go on record claiming cruelty from her husband over the years, claiming he had threatened to beat her on many occasions. She went on to state she had led a miserable life with Arthur. Their 15-year-old son Lawrence told them that he believed his mother was afraid of his father and had heard him threaten her, but hadn't seen any violence between them. Lawrence went on to add that he'd been told by his father about his injuries in the war, including being gassed. He had also witnessed his father suffered dizzy spells at times. The trial was a short one, with the jury returning after just over an hour with a verdict of guilty. The foreman of the jury asked the judge to show mercy on the prisoner. With a guilty verdict, the judge gave the death penalty to a sobbing Ethel, who was close to collapsing and had to be helped out. She appealed on the basis that the judge's summing up was biased, but this was dismissed. Unusually, Mr. Justice Charles wrote to the Home Secretary, Sir John Gilmore, saying, "The jury recommended the prisoner to mercy, and I concur with the recommendation." Sir Gilmore replied that he could find no legal grounds on which to revoke the sentence. A petition was carried out, and the Lord Mayor also joined in, but as usual back then in poisoning cases, there could be no reprieve, with the only exception being a woman who was pregnant. Ethel Lillie Major's legs buckled as she was led calmly to the gallows, where she was hanged by Tom Pierpoint, assisted by his nephew Albert, at Hull Prison, 9 a.m. on Wednesday the 19th of December 1934. This was the last of 10 hangings and the only female execution at Hull. It would later be discovered by a relative of Ethel's on a TV show that Ethel wrote a series of letters to her loved ones, but they were not sent to them as the Home Office wouldn't allow this. They were placed in the Home Office file and are now a part of the National Archives record. The letters were difficult to read, but Ethel's cousin Jill managed to copy them down as best she could. The letters. Ethel's letter to her father, Tom Brown, December the 18th, 1934. My own darling Dad, this is my last letter to you, dear, and I thank you very much for yours. I was so glad to have it from you, as I am sure you all love me so dearly. I am truly glad to hear you all got home safely. I shall be done in this world soon, so think of me tomorrow at 9 a.m, dear one. I'm only moderate today. I cannot take much food, as it is so hard and cruel. But dearest Dad, do see to poor Oriel and Larry for me. Don't let them leave you, and then they can be happy together, as they will still have a home of their own, which is the best they can have, and comfort each other. Today I have been told people outside are still fighting for me. There is a ray of hope, but if it does not come, I shall be passed out of this wicked world by this time tomorrow. I told you all in my last letter to Oriel, glad they are sharing a home. God bless them and keep them all safe and well till we meet again, but not on earth but in heaven with Grandma. I am writing this today. I shall have no time in the morning, and I will make time for Larry too. Oriel is to keep the buckets and all useful things on the stove. I have had some nice letters for some quite strange people in Hull and other parts of the country. So God is always with me. I'm never alone, dear Dad. Give my love to my brothers. Sorry I can't write to them. I'm really tired. So goodbye, and God be with you forever and ever. Amen. From darling daughter Ethel. A letter to her son Lawrence, December the 18th, 1934. My own darling son, just a line in answer to your nice letter. Well, dear, I'm not feeling too great today, as my time on earth is getting short. The reprieve has not come, so you can prepare to meet me in the heavenly home. And, my son, will now be motherless in the world. Both you and poor Oriel do cling together, as I told you, son, and do as I wish, darling boy, as I shall be with you all till the last moment on earth. 'Tis so hard to take a parting kiss and a farewell handshake, but I hope you will lead the good, steady, honest, sober life like I have done, and stick to Grandad while he is still alive. And don't go and leave Oriel when he dies, as I am sure you will both be happy as soon as you will have all my things to look at and use. They will last you years with care, but do as I say, keep a home of your own, both you live together, and then you will be a comfort to each other in times of trouble. Keep this letter, my loved one, as I shall never write to you again. It is my last letter, my last goodbye for ever and ever. I'm crying bitterly over you all today, as I shall be silent at this time tomorrow. Well, dear, I had a letter from Oriel and Grandad, and they are both now heartbroken, and say they will never be happy any more now I've left them, and I don't think you will either, shall you, my pet, as we were always together in heart and mind and soul. Always live with Oriel and Peter when dear Grandad is gone. So think of Mother always, and what I told you. I have left 5 and 2 for you, and wedding things for Oriel. Well, goodbye. God be with you both, now and always. Do think of me always. Think of me, even think of the times we had together through separation. Darling boy, forget me not, from your broken-hearted mother. My teeth are being kept in my mouth. Be good, Peter and Oriel dearie. I'm going to Holy Communion tonight for my last time, dear. I feel I cannot stop writing. I want you all so badly. God knows my heart's bled to death for all of you. What a wicked, cruel world this is. It gets worse every day. Do try and lead a steady life, dear, like me. Don't let the world and its gate get a hold on you. Say no to it. Take note of my last message to you, dear child. Stick to Grandad, Oriel, and your own people, and get a roof of your own together. Be better than other people, as nobody wants us for long. Well, goodbye once more, and the last goodbye forever, from own darling mother, Ethel Major. I can't write well, my boy. Goodbye forever, God bless. Do keep good company and stay with your own perfect Grandad and Oriel. That's my last wish, goodbye. Live together when Grandad dies. Get a home together with you and Oriel and Peter, as nobody will want you now I'm gone. Odd thing to say. A letter to her daughter Oriel, December 1934. My own darling daughter and baby Peter. Just a few lines in answer to your letter of today. I was glad to hear from you, pet. Also to hear you got home safely, dear ones. Well, my dear, it is dreadful for me to know at this time tomorrow I shall be dead at 1 p.m. I have just had a cup of tea, a piece of bread and butter. I cannot eat very well, dear. I'm glad you and Laurie are sharing things, and then you can both live together and be happy and comfortable, as I don't want Larry to leave you and his Grandad. I want you to drill that into him, mind. It is my earnest wish you should stick together, the same as we have all done in life. It's a nice day here. I wish I was going to be home with you for Christmas, as I know you are all so lonely without me, and I am without you, dear ones. My ring is for you, and all my goods will be sent home, but I hope I shall be able to come too, and be laid to rest with my mother and Arthur in our own churchyard, as I know you all wish it. So you must ask the Home Office to be gracious and grant your wish, and mine too, as then I shall be happy, and you will too, as you can visit where I am laid, and I should like a cross put up at the head of my grave. I do hope my heart's desire and wish will be granted, as I have lost all other things I have asked for of His Majesty. But I trust you will grant my heart's desire and yours too, as I want to come to your house and then on to the grave after spending a night with you all. And I want everyone to have a last look at me and carry out my wishes. I've written to Mr. Chatterton today, but you can go over and see him as soon as you get this letter, asking for me to be brought home to lay in my own churchyard. So I trust by the grace of God it will be granted to me, as it is the last thing I shall ask, and it says in the Bible, ask and it shall be given. I shall not ask in vain for what is only the right thing. And my earnest wish, and I know it's yours too, dears, give my love to Fred, Herbert, Alfred and Auntie Mary, and Winnie, as this is my last letter I should ever write to you, my pet. And I hope you will take care of it, as my heart is full of grief. I am sorrowful to think that I shall not see you all again, and see my dear little Peter grow up, and that I can't take care of you and Larry. But do take care of yourself. Don't marry too soon, as life is sweet. All I have asked you to do, put on black for me, and I hope I can come home to lay beside my dearest mum. My heart's soul will then be happy and at rest, as long as I come and be there with Arthur and Mum in Kirkby-on-Bane churchyard. Do all I ask, please. Darling girl, give my love to Leslie, Peter, Dad and Larry. He ought to be home, helping you, dear. But do carry out my wishes, please, as you will never hear my voice again in this world. I would love to see you all today for the last time, dear. I'm so lonely without you all, and I know you are without me. I know that you will never be happy any more, dear. I have been taken from you all. Share everything that is useful in the home, my dears. I think you will be glad of it, dearest one. Well, I will now close and say goodbye forever and ever. Amen. and I trust God will bless and keep you safe and well till we meet again in heaven. You and dear little Peter, Dad and Larry. You will find all things safely packed away, dear, my clothes, etc. I mean, darling, take care of your birth certificate and Larry's and Peter, as they will be wanted some day, perhaps when you grow older, dear. They are in a box in my room somewhere. So goodbye and God bless you, my darling daughter, forever, from own dearest mother, forever. Ethel Lillie Major. She wrote to a solicitor with some requests. Well, dear sir, will you please grant me this special favour by asking the Home Secretary to grant for the favour also my father's and my children's too, by granting them their heart's desire. Also my own earnest wish and desire, and that is that I should be brought home to my own churchyard, Kirkby-on-Bane, and laid to rest by the side of my mother and my husband, as then my heart and soul will be at rest. It is my earnest wish that it should be done. So will you please see that it is done for me, my special request, if at all possible in the world. Arthur Major was buried in St. Mary's Churchyard, Kirkby-on-Bane. Did Ethel get her wish? Ethel was buried in an unmarked grave in the prison grounds. Thank you for watching.